What's up? Welcome to the Virzi Triplets podcast or Virzi Triplets show. I don't know exactly what we're figuring it out.
It only took us 8 months to figure out a name, and we still did not figure out a name.
Well,
so.
it's a back and forth, especially with the three of us. Sean preferred podcasts. Me and Mitchell kind of prefer show.
Yeah, we had a couple other names that were.
What were the other
debated.
names you were talking about?
The one was I Banged Your Mom podcast, which
Something like that.
I actually like that name a lot.
Gabba Goofs was mine.
No,
absolutely not.
Literally gives anybody cancer hearing that.
Yeah.
But, we had a couple other names. I can't even remember what they were.
That's okay.
Eventually, we're just like, screw it. We're just going to go with Virzi Triplets.
I think one of them was
podcast.
Chubby Chasers, right?
No, but that's funny. I like that one. Anyways, this is we're doing back to the podcast. We're in a new studio.
Inaugural.
The inaugural podcast in the Big Zen studio. Our boy, Jeff Zanazek, who's a hilarious comedian.
Give him a follow.
Give him a follow. Maybe we'll plug him. I don't know. But this is his studio, so we're in here, and he put a lot of work into it. Definitely better than the green screen we were doing it on for a while.
Yeah.
But we upgraded. This is the new spot, the new pod. We'll be doing it weekly as usual.
We took a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah.
We went off the grid.
Yeah.
I was going to talk into that a little further in the podcast, but let's get into it.
You don't have to turn to the camera. You can.
It's called cheating.
No, you can talk to us.
This one's
cheating.
angled at you, so you're actually cheating away from what you're supposed to. You're cheating to the center one.
I don't need to talk to you. I'm talking to the audience.
You're talking to. We are the audience.
You already know what I'm going to say about this story.
Okay.
Well, let's hear it. Let's go from the beginning. Let's give the whole rundown.
So this is kind of why we've been off for a couple months. Aside from obviously we upgraded the studio and whatever else. Let's see where to start.
Where do we begin? It was
about 6 months ago.
September 21st. I remember because it was
we have to give vague details. We can't give hardcore.
I'll just go right into the casting part. Essentially.
So we were in possibly for a new potential show, and
undisclosed platform.
Platform, but we were in a very good situation. They by name requested us, reached out. Probably the easiest casting process we've ever been in because they knew exactly what they were getting with us.
I believe we signed the contract within a week.
Yeah, if you haven't been in Hollywood, we got a contract and we said, hey, we don't like two of these things. The very next day it was changed and we got a new contract, which
never happens.
Never happens in Hollywood.
It almost seemed too good to be true, is what some would say.
Well, and I would agree. It seemed too good to be true.
Yeah.
So contract was done within a week. We signed it. Again, the deal was a insanely good deal. All three of us individually getting the deal. So it was each paid, each on it, each everything. It was, again, we couldn't have asked for a better.
And, you feel real stupid when you start celebrating with money you don't have. You sign the paperwork. You start telling people, hey, this is a thing.
Well,
I believe I sat in the office chair we have, my arms up for a couple minutes.
Oh, I went on a 2-week bender. I went full. I partied pretty hard after that.
And you know what the worst part about all this is we've been through this gauntlet long enough where we're like, our motto is always, we've been screwed over enough times where our motto's always been, don't celebrate until the contract's signed.
And
we signed the contract. So we were celebrating. We were happy. We were celebrating. This was in September, and you could tell that's kind of when we stopped doing the podcast.
Yes.
Because the opportunity was really good, and we didn't want anything
to jeopardize it.
Anything said, especially podcast stuff, to jeopardize the opportunity. Because we're like, who cares afterwards? We'll just start a new one. It doesn't matter.
Well, on top of that too, it was a very short contract. Most of them we get were like 30 pages. This was 8, and half of them had nothing to do with what was required of us.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know if I can get too specific, but I know one chunk of it was essentially like, okay, if you may or may not hook up with somebody on there, you may or may not get some STDs, and that's on you.
That's just a general. I think any of those shows, they put those in there because they can't be liable for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so we signed the contract middle September, and it wasn't going to shoot till the beginning of the next year.
So we essentially just went off the grid. We didn't want to do anything to endanger it. We didn't want to rock the boat.
We weren't doing shows because we didn't want to do anything dumb. Or we did some shows, but we didn't want to say anything to jeopardize it.
We did what we can to not get canceled.
Yes. And we say every now and then we say some very dumb things. It just happens. We're idiots. So we were away for a bit.
But then we are still going through the process. They still hadn't finalized everything. There are still, they still had to like figure out how each of us were different. So there were still meetings with certain people along the way.
Well, the show that we were initially put into ended up being vastly different from what I think the ultimate product ended up being.
Yes.
And
we were not a good fit for what the show eventually became.
I still think we were.
I think we are.
I still think we were.
But so the process, we signed the contract, which is usually rare that you sign it without going through a process. So we signed it, and then for the next couple months went through a casting process,
meeting
producers, talking to people about it, and just going through details. And then they also do a psych evaluation. They do social media background checks, and I mean they do
thorough.
So this is my favorite part about the whole process is we submitted, you have to submit your social media, and they go through, they add you on Facebook, they add you on all these things, and then they go through, someone's job is to go through every single post, everything you've liked on Twitter, everything on TikTok, all of that, and then that person will flag it if they deem it's controversial.
Yes.
If you are in comedy for, 6 or 7 years, there's going to be some posts that are controversial. That's just unavoidable.
Well, I'll get to the details of that later. So as the process went on, the real first red flag that this was not the golden ticket we were promised was I got a psych evaluation. So, excuse me. So we were meeting with the heads of the production company.
Yes.
And I got an audition, or my time was like 10:30, and Mitchell and Sean's was 11:30 and 12.
Yes.
Or something like that. And I met with the actual production people, the actual heads of the company. An hour later, Mitchell and Sean were going to do this, and they got pawned off on the assistant.
Yes.
Pulled into a meeting was the direct quote. They got pulled into a meeting.
which is Hollywood. That happens all the time.
But it happens for a reason.
Yes.
Mitchell got so upset because, again, in Hollywood, it sounds dumb, but there's a lot of these dumb little power moves that mean a whole lot.
Well,
your spidey senses start to tingle.
It wasn't until we got to lunch, and I think I was the one that said it. And
Sean was the one that said it. Yeah,
Sean
I was like,
this.
man, what if they just only want Alex?
And there
and
was
all of us
deafening.
And I knew immediately that my gut immediately knew. I was like that.
There was a deafening silence at the table at the Cheesecake Factory bar.
It was the most uncomfortable lunch we've ever had, and we've gone to like sushi restaurants, and we've turned into walruses by shoving chopsticks.
Sure, I wouldn't classify that as awkward. I would say more that we went there to celebrate at the Cheesecake Factory, as you do when you're at the Cheesecake Factory, and it turned out to be a very morbid, ominous, night at the factory.
So from then, Mitchell's anxiety started peaking.
Yes.
When he gets stressed, Mitchell has gut feelings that, for the most part, are accurate.
They're always right. Always right. And these guys always tell me, you're crazy. What do you do? You need to calm down.
Yeah.
And they're always right. Every time.
It's called gaslighting.
So that was the first red flag where I was like, it's no big deal. It happens. So then later the next week.
Well, I was telling Alex, I'm like, hey, we should. Me and Sean still hadn't got the evaluations. So I'm like, hey.
Hold on, I didn't cover that. Okay. So the next week they send out psych evaluations to fill. I get the psych evaluation, fill it out, and then Mitchell and Sean do not get a psych evaluation. So Mitchell goes after a day, he's like, hey, I think we should email them and follow up.
As you do. I feel like it's like, okay, yeah, if they're going through this whole process, it's not that much harder to send 2 evaluations to 2 people. And, they gave me the, must have got lost in that. And then
we'll look into it.
Yeah, we'll look into it.
The best is, by the way, all of the emails are going to our triplet email account. So we're all getting notifications.
We're all linked into it, but it's only being addressed to Alex. Red flag number 2.
So I tell Mitchell not to worry about it. And then a couple weeks
again, Alex is wrong.
A couple weeks. Well, a couple weeks go by, and then it's like, oh, we're getting close to the holiday break, and they're still not getting your psych evals.
Which I will say, by the way, it doesn't take that long to do.
No, not
I
at
can
all.
understand why, or if they needed to put it off, that's totally acceptable. But my least favorite thing throughout this entire process was Alex being overly optimistic throughout the whole thing. Like he's like being a and I get it. He was like being a motivational speaker to us, but Mitchell, like there was so much resentment. Like
optimism died throughout this process. It died. Every day that passed was, they always give me crap for being like, I'm like, oh yeah, no, we got to be realistic. And like, you can't be realistic. We're in Hollywood. We're going to make it. And I'm like, no. This is a place where you have to be realistic at times. And I was being realistic. And Alex was like, hey, man, we this is still a great day, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, great for you. It was, but
I was winning either way.
I tried to play the middle ground where it was, high tide raises all ships. And we did get a little blip. Like, then we actually did.
High tide raises all ships, but if two ships have a hole in it, then the other ship does better than the two holed ships.
But it's okay, Mitch. You just work on my ship.
Anyways, let's continue through the whole.
So
after that, it was, we did get an interview with the heads of the production company. They did eventually schedule an interview with me and Mitch separately.
Hold on, can I? And by the way, the psych evaluations, I had to schedule. I was optimistic about the psych evaluations because you did have to schedule an hour with a therapist and talk to the therapist. Mind you, the questions are pretty ridiculous in these psych evaluations.
They gave you a Rorschach test and you just said boobs to everything?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The questions on the psych evaluations test was literally like, I know it sounds ridiculous maybe because we're normal or whatever, but the questions were literally, the question was, I remember vividly, the question was, hey, it's true or false. And it's sometimes I feel like life is too much and I want to end it. True or false? Those were the kind of questions in these psych evaluations. So it's like,
which by the way, what a weird. I feel like there's not a true or false question for you got to give a little more to it.
And what Alex said by ridiculous because we're normal, it's just that he meant that there's not any other. We're lucky we don't have any other issues.
We're lucky we don't have mental health issues aside from stupidity. But,
yes.
So we go through this process. They still haven't gotten their psych evals, but they did reach out and do a.
Interview. We did a Skype interview with them.
And then I remember being very optimistic because I'm like, look, Mitch, look at that. It all worked out well. You got your interview.
Well, then, of course, shortly after that, after we got the interview, I remember I had a good interview because I think you interviewed first and I interviewed immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
And after that, they had emailed me personally and they're like, hey, we want to do a social media evaluation for Sean. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, yeah, Alex had it. Yeah. Alex got it.
We might not have told you that.
No, yeah, they reached out to me and they did a social media evaluation.
Okay.
And then about a week later, they're like, disregard this. We were just trying to get Alex's social media.
That's right. I remember. They sent it to the wrong brother.
They sent it to the wrong brother.
That's so fucked up.
It's
so pissed.
They were trying to be coy throughout this whole thing, and we're all linked to the same email.
The least you could do is just get the name. It's not like the names are that far off. Yeah. Sean and Alex, and then they literally saw all my social media, and they're like, okay. And then a full week went by, and they're like, whoopsies, whoopsie daisies.
I forgot about that.
I think at that point, that is when I officially knew.
We had pretty much wrote for me and Mitchell. We had pretty much wrote it off.
Timeline wise,
well, and then you also got the call from.
So then around right before the holiday break, I believe it was either right before or right after the holiday break.
It was right after.
One of the top producers on the show gives me a call and says, "Hey." The producer goes, "Hey, Alex, it's great that I'm blah blah blah. I'm really really excited to work with you. Like, I'm giving you this call because I feel very confident you're going to be on this show, and I wouldn't be calling you if I didn't." And I said, "Great." And she's like, "They're like, oh, here's this is some of the stuff you might need, blah 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 blah, but no hard confirmation." no like firm. And I'm like, okay. Her favorite line, the favorite line they like to use is "as things firm up." That was the entire favorite line in this casting process was.
Which, by the way, we have no problem with this casting company or production company at all.
No, this is
just what happened to us.
This
That's
is
all.
yeah. We again we
Please
would go
hire
back,
us.
We would go back and immediately do it. It's just that's just part of the process. We've been through enough of these where it's like we know this is part of the process. It was just the optimism throughout the months was.
We're merely explaining why we had all this time off. That's it.
So I talked to the girl and I go, hey, you know, that's like awesome. That's great. And I go, so what about my brothers? And she goes, she laughs. I remember she laughed.
The other second most popular phrase throughout all this, let me get back to you.
Let me get back to you on that. But I remember she laughed because she heard I had her on speakerphone and she heard my brothers in the other room and she laughed like, do you live with your brothers? And I'm like, yeah. But she laughed at the fact that, so she laughed at that and said, I'm going to have to get back to you, which is code word for, these guys are. So I was like, okay. At that point, we had all kind of reached, the date was February, I think was when, towards the end of February. Was when this was going to shoot. So we get to about end of January, and they finally call Mitchell and Sean and say, hey, you guys aren't going to be a part of it.
Yes. Although we had been alive in the process. We were a dog with softball lumps on his side and bad hips. Like, we were done for either way. Yes. But they finally put us down.
Yes, they finally put him down. So then we got to the point of, okay, Mitchell, during this time, arguably the most anxious and stressed I've seen in a while, and he had every right to be. But during this time, Mitchell has to deal with the fact Sean didn't care. Sean did not care about this. Sean was like, hey, you know what? If Alex is successful, we're all successful. Mitchell has to deal with the fact the entire time he goes, I don't want to be Alex's sidekick.
I didn't want it to be Alex and the Alexettes is what I said. And I still don't want it to be that.
It has been Alex's dream to have Alex and the Alexettes. But I was like, that's okay.
No, I didn't think it was okay.
Like an Alexette still on the stage, right? Like, that's fine with me.
No, absolutely not. No, I never saw it like that. I never thought that it would be like, it's like, absolutely not. No, I knew it was never going to be.
Don't worry, Mitch, you can get some of the residual girls I don't get around to banging.
And I'll tell you what, man, when I got the call that we didn't get on, it was after I already had I got drunk the night before. I got the call in the morning.
You were wasted.
It was from an anonymous number. I believe that was a 2-bottle night. That was 2-bottle. I've been known to wine because I worked at a vineyard. I can drink wine like no other. So that was a 2-bottle night. I had a 2-bottle of wine night.
Is that the infamous quote, I had 2 bottles of wine last night and I felt nothing?
And you know what? And I woke up and still felt nothing. But yeah, I got the call. I didn't recognize the number, so I just picked it up. I'm like assuming it was a telemarketer, and I get the barrage of like, "Hey, you're not gonna be on. Any questions?" I'm like I'm literally in bed naked. I'm like, "What?" And then like, "Okay, bye." I'm like, "All right." And I'll tell you what, I just got a cold sore too, so there's nothing more. I'll tell you what, there is a rock bottom you hit when your brother is about to get on a TV show, and you're sitting there at the Cheesecake Factory again, drinking a beer with a flare-up at noon on a Monday.
Hey, buddy, can I get you some bread?
If anybody ever wanted Hollywood summed up in a nutshell, that is the best. And also somebody else I know that got on one too, but I can't really talk about that one.
Well, so the story doesn't end there. So Mitchell and Sean finally get the call. They're finally released. So I go, okay, you know what?
Well, I also want to be clear that it wasn't like
none of us are
I wasn't jealous. I just for me, I was like, what, where do I go from here?
Yes.
Because it's not like
you go to work at Costco.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like it was just going to be normal and triple. There's no way it could be that. There's just no
produce content after
Sure.
that.
Yeah. That's literally what it would be.
You just would have been one of 2 bonus Jonas. That's all.
Yeah.
But not all the perks of the Jonas Brothers. It would not have been that.
I told you I would have given you some of my overflow on vagina.
You could have been hooking up. You could have been hooking up with a girl and she'd be like, "Oh yeah, Alex." You'd be like, "I'm Mitch. I have a cold sore."
I can't tell you how close I was to just completely moving, to literally picking up all my stuff and leaving. again, it was more just like
glad,
I will say because I got in, I started doing this before you guys. So for me, it was like I didn't get into it because the three of us. It was like, oh no, I've always wanted to do just this stuff.
They say your true friends and family are the people that not that you when you're down, it's who you can celebrate your successes with. And it's not.
Trust me, it would have been good overall. And I eventually reached a conclusion of at the end of the day, my own happiness is on me.
It was a big character check. It was a big character check for all of us. I mean, I was as ever. I am always and have been the Promontory.
Yes.
Never changing, always still and composed.
Which is not a good trait that he has in a lot of different.
It's not in a lot, but Mitchell and I did have a very fail-safe eject button just in case we have all of Alex's blackmail.
Yes,
we were ready to let it go, just so like lobsters, we can't let Alex escape.
Listen, it was just a real punch in the twat, and there's no way to prepare for that.
So
even though I should know better, it's hot. That's what's annoying. I think the biggest betrayal is that it's
Hollywood,
L.A., it's Hollywood. This is what happens, and I was naive to believe that anything else would happen.
Mitch, it can still happen.
No, I know.
Don't worry.
No.
And you're talking to the guys that went on America's Got Talent, crushed. And we went through the whole America's Got Talent process. They asked us to do a meeting with.
Well, I don't know how much. That was
okay. Well,
but
anyways,
another instinct my gut was right.
Let's not burn everything down.
Yeah.
This isn't burning it down. I would go back to these people in a heartbeat. But
would they go back to you is the question.
I already learned. So anyways, and in fairness, if I was in Mitchell and Sean's shoes where it was Sean or Mitchell being the star, I would be livid as well.
What would you have done?
Especially if it was Sean.
I was going to say, what would you have done if it was me that they're like, this is the one right here. This is the one.
Mitchell and I would have just had a twin act.
No, I would have left. I still would have left.
If we tried to do stand-up after that, it would have completely ruined the dynamic.
You would have been.
Yes, that was what was annoying is that Sean was like, yeah, it'll be fine. Woo. Like he was like stoked about it. I'm like, you don't get it. You don't get that it would never be the same.
Well, Mitchell's instinct is right. I would have cut him out immediately. Just you and me, Sean. So that was the end of January, and this shoots the end of February. So, Alex is still alive. Mitchell and Sean are gone. You know what? Hey, I'm in the gym every day.
But to be fair, I was supportive, and I'm like, hey, whatever you need. I was willing to pick up the load of work.
Yes.
If you were gone,
and
I was willing to do everything.
Did a great job on that.
I literally carried the load, which made it even more annoying.
Mitchell did a tremendous job because I was very focused on getting in shape, writing jokes for the show.
Lucky me. What a gem. If Alex gives you, hey, you did a great job. It's like being the employee of the month at McDonald's. It's like, cool, go back to the fryer, you bum.
Well, I can't fix all things. I can only help a little bit.
You helped a little bit would be an overstatement. I think.
So I will say, I mean, after we got the initial news, I was very diligent on my my cutting, at least in the initial thing. And then I fell off for 2 months afterwards. After
the Promontory.
After we got the hard no, I was like, okay.
So in that next
couple weeks,
3 or 4 weeks, I am to be on the show. I've been given all the right stuff, all the information, emails, everything. We get to about, and I'm asking every now and then this process when they communicate with me. They probably did it once a week, every week up until the point. I go, hey, just trying to see if the cast is firmed up and it's a guarantee, because I need to get affairs in order if I'm going to go and do this for however long I'm going to do this.
And it was about a month. It was a long.
It was not a short thing. So,
and by the way, this was a show that would require you to change all of your wardrobe, because your wardrobe right now is pretty much glorified Ralph Lauren outfits. I mean,
I would have had to.
Marshall's clearance rack.
So it was literally like changing your entire wardrobe.
I would have had to buy like $2,000 worth of wardrobe for sure.
Yes.
So, and they go, we're firming things up again. They love that firming things up.
I'm firming up my fist in there.
We get to 2 weeks out of actual shooting, not including going to travel. This was during some quarantine time, so you have to quarantine. And we're 2 weeks out from the actual shoot date. And I go, yo, what's the deal? And then that week.
What's the deal?
That week, they still hadn't firmed it up, but COVID people reached out. production people reached out. All the people you would need that it's almost a guarantee that you're going. Every single person reached out that I could possibly need. Field people, payment people, everybody.
Talent team.
Everybody reached out. So I go, you know what? I feel really good going into Super Bowl weekend. For the whole time I was skeptical. So I'm like, I literally saw what they just did to my brothers, so I'm skeptical. But going into that Super Bowl weekend, I remember.
It was 1 week out. Yeah.
It was that Friday, 10 days out. Monday is Valentine's Day, and I would be a week from shooting. That Friday, I had reached out to all these people. Everybody was giving me the soft, like, oh, production will give you. Everybody was going, oh, they'll tell you the final answer. They'll tell you the final answer. So I text the lady that had told me a couple months ago, you're very, very likely in. I wouldn't be calling you. I wouldn't be giving you my number. She told me I could text her if there's any whatever. And I go, okay. So I text her and I go, hey, it's whatever. I just wanted to see if anything's solidified. Just in case we might be doing this in 10 days. Reads it, immediately left on red. And I go, oh boy, that's either really good or really bad. So that weekend was a long weekend, Super Bowl weekend.
Tell me about it. Tell me about your one long weekend.
So
just your weekend. Not your months, not your entire winter.
Hey, how dare you? I know your struggle. I had a long.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you?
I had a legitimate. So that Monday after Super Bowl weekend, Valentine's Day.
A week out from shooting.
1 week out from shooting. 1 week out. I wake up to a text message. And I'm going to read the parts I can read.
Sure.
So they go, hi, Alex. I just heard from the casting team, and unfortunately, we aren't going to have you be a part of this season. Apparently, it came down to, I can't name that. Obviously, nothing against you. Mind you, the girl texting me is some girl that just got on the job a week prior.
Some poor martyr.
Not the company that's been doing it the entire time. That they texted me my rejection. They texted me my rejection from this TV show 1 week out, and they at least had the decency to give them a voicemail or call them. They sent a text 1 week out. Let me finish this thing. I don't know why this girl said this. Obviously, nothing against you, and I think you are hysterical and very cute. You're still on board for other potential stuff, and the team loves you and adores you. I'm very sorry for this bad news. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions you might have, and all my fingers crossed for you. Thanks for being so amazing and patient. And again, I'm so sorry they made this call. And I literally just sent the like emoji on the message, and that was it. That was 6 months, 5 month process down the drain.
And I don't want to say this would have been a career
Yep,
maker,
it would have.
but it was definitely the big break that we would have. You would have had. We could have had.
Whenever it actually is, whenever that we can actually talk more about it, we should have known by the name of the show.
Yep.
That it was everything that was just everything about Hollywood. It was the golden ticket dangled in front of you. You're gonna be a star, whatever, and it's like
it's always when you want it too much, and also just from you guys might not read these contracts, but we read it. All the contracts, none of them are guarantees. There's a lot of if you get this and if you get they always leave in a little something.
And that was another thing I was skeptical about the entire time, too, because after reading, I was like, the contract's amazing if you actually shoot it, but it's if they pick you and if you're chosen and if all this stuff.
Do you still have that number?
I do actually have the number. Actually, I think I intentionally didn't
erase it.
You should send a bunch of photos of blue waffles.
No, I intentionally I cut it out on top.
Why?
Because I sent it to you guys and whatever else, but I do have the original number of it doesn't matter. Anyways, so that was the long story of what's kind of catching you up in the last 6 months and why we haven't been doing things. We laid low for a long time because of that. Obviously,
we didn't even go through the social.
Oh my
media.
God, I forgot. Okay, so this is my favorite part of the whole process, aside from watching Mitchell get rejected. So they do a social media background check in probably October.
A week after they told me they were doing mine.
Yeah, and they send the results. I asked for a printout of it, so they send the results of this to me in January. And the results of this background check are they have a federal one, obviously, if you have arrest or whatever else. But the results are they sent me a 50-page packet of our social media background check, and boy, is that a doozy. Someone's job was to sit there, watch all of our content, and write down red flags that they might need. And a lot of it was dumb stuff. A lot of it was podcast stuff. That's why if you go back on YouTube and everything else, the podcast is just gone. We deleted all of it. And the worst part is I had a 30-minute conversation with these people. I forgot about this. So I looked through all the packet and whatever, and a lot of it was like podcasts, like we would say like OnlyFans on podcasts or title things like Mormon pimps. Or whatever.
there were buzzwords that would immediately flag either the system or like, hey, just because they said it, we have to.
Yeah, micro PP was somewhere in there.
That's you.
No,
Alex has a micro penis.
No. Alex does have a micro
penis.
penis.
That's not true. He does.
So we got this flag. We got this social media background thing. It was hilarious because it was someone poorly quoting everything, but it would be like, flag this video, quote, my vagina has road rash.
Yeah.
Or, quote, did you call your dick a goozuka? And just
my favorite was we were joking. They're like, oh, what's the next step? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start an OnlyFans for my anus.
Yes.
And they're like, he wants to start an OnlyFans.
And that was a quote. He wants an OnlyFans for his anus.
But while you were going through this entire thing, I remember you were on the call and she had to like walk you through everything, and she was laughing at all this stuff.
So part of it was in January, once they got cut, she's like, hey, we just have a couple concerns about the content. And I go, okay, listen, I have no problem deleting everything. Like, if this is the deal, if this is the difference between being on and not being on, I'll delete it in a heartbeat. Like, no problems whatsoever.
Which now it's going to be, we're not deleting anything until we're on.
So we'll figure that out.
Oh, it's negotiable,
It's all negotiable.
Yeah, come on.
Mitchell says that, and they send him the contract again, and this time it's a guarantee.
You take the ifs out.
The money. There needs to be money in hand before.
Yes.
No other ifs.
If this podcast goes away again, you know why.
Yeah, there you go.
So I spent 30 minutes on a call with this producer walking through this 50-page packet of, okay, well, what did you mean by, what is this video? And it's names, different names for my dick. And then she'd be like, what is this? And I'd go, oh, Goozuka or Skeet Seat or whatever.
Yeah.
And she was laughing the worst part is she laughed at every single thing that was flagged in this video. She's like, oh, that's really funny, but can we take that off? It's a little crude. I'm like,
well, sure. Some of them were silly. Like some of them were like, oh, making fun of white girls, like making fun of husbands. Like it didn't make any sense.
There's one that was making fun of a married couple. I'm like, we were like making fun of ourselves as husbands in the sketch.
They flagged everything that could be making fun of. It was ridiculous.
And we did a kids show before this, and they weren't even that aggressive.
I told her this. I'm like, listen, I have no problem deleting this, but just to let you know, the energy the things you liked about us from our body of work is this. So all that energy that you liked from whatever else we've done, that comes with this. So it would be on the show, it would be on whatever, the same way that it's on our media. And she's like, oh yeah, no, we totally get it. We still love you guys, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, then I have no problem deleting it, but I don't want to delete all this content and then not get on. And she's like, oh, well, don't worry about that. And I'm like, okay. I remember saying it vividly, and boy, did I eat my words. That day, Sean and I spent a couple hours pulling down several pieces of content across all platforms, things flagged from years ago.
Anything, like, there was videos or you couldn't like certain videos that
they went through all
other
the
people posted.
Like TikToks,
we pulled tweets that were, like, not even mildly offensive, but just like, okay, like, let's just
just comedians we think are funny. We like their tweets, and they're like, can you unlike all of these tweets? And it was just hours Sean and I spent doing that, and eventually it's like, okay, hey, it's all done. Great, thanks so much. That's awesome. We'll be back to you soon. And again, the end result was nothing, nil.
That's show business.
It was 6 months? 5 months.
5 months process.
5-month cock tease, baby.
The worst part is everybody we talked to in this process was like, and I remember saying this. We said it multiple times throughout. We're like, you know what? If we get screwed over on this, it would be really shocking because we've talked to all the right people, and I'm talking. They're big people, and boy, is that just setting yourself up to get fucked.
Well, the other thing too was we told a bunch of our friends.
I told you guys not to do that. I told you guys not to do that. They like to,
and that really, which it is what it is.
Well, I mean, I always made it clear that it was not guaranteed, but yeah, you feel real stupid when. Well, I mean, not just when you get eliminated, but when you're still in contention. It was like,
well, there was no NDA either, but it was all it's not like we were giving away. Well, no, there wasn't.
We signed a confidentiality thing.
We said that we were in contention for any shows if there's a camera rolling right now, which there is. Yeah, we never gave any details.
Oh yeah, no, we didn't. There's no details.
We said there was a chance. Blah blah blah.
This is all vague.
It was vague. Yeah, we were just like, oh, we might be in something.
So,
so that was the.
That was it.
That's kind of what happened over the last 5-6 months, where we were taking podcast.
We were taking a mental health break.
And boy, did they string us along. We still did digital, obviously, but
it was actually a lot worse for my mental health, I would say. It was actually quite the opposite of it was not a break at all. It was actually very exhausting.
It was a break. It was a snap.
It was there was one day for sure where I had a break for sure.
3 bottles of wine.
No, it wasn't that, but I do have I think I haven't had like a real anxiety attack in a while, and that was probably the closest I've had.
We thought Mitch was going to Epstein himself for sure.
But now it's us. Now we just everything is going to go through us. We're going to do as much as we can to
now we have no
keep it in our hands.
Yeah, we have no imaginary contractual obligations that won't be fulfilled or unfulfilled. At this current time,
possibly.
It's almost like we have nothing to lose.
Well, we also
there's always stuff to lose.
There's always something to lose. We did learn in the process that it was like, all right, especially after deleting content. I remember Anthony Jeselnik at one of his Thoughts and Prayers, the end of his special, he talked about how he regretted deleting a show because it made fun of he did a shark attack, and he deleted the show and pulled the show. But it didn't change anything.
Oh, no, they made him apologize, and then they ended up canceling him anyways.
And then they canceled him anyways, and he's like, I will never, ever apologize or pull my content or anything else again. And that's exactly kind of how we felt after this, where it's like, dude, you know what? If you want us, this is what it is. If you don't like it, whatever.
For the right price.
The right price of guaranteed.
Well, it's just more annoying that, like, relative to the stuff that we have online, like, there are people that, whatever, have gone through this exact same process that have far worse stuff online than we do, and like they're making us pull like marriage jokes off the internet, and like there's people that are showing literally their asshole, with potential others in it.
Yeah, have their faces glazed on, whatever. And
I made a joke about having one for my ass, but there are people that actually have it.
Yeah.
So it was just, and it's whatever.
That's the show business end of it, where it's like. Everybody wants to get into it, and then don't get me wrong. There's people that get they get the opportunity, and it's everything that it's signed out to be, and they get the golden ticket.
Oh, there were people.
There's those opportunities.
There was one extra one that took your spot.
Yep. And I think by the end of it, I think why they delayed it so long was
I think you were the COVID one. You were the COVID replacement.
By that last week prior, I must have been if someone popped for COVID, then I would go in. But at that point, it was pretty much a done deal that I was not.
Did you ever look at who they did put up?
No, I don't think I haven't. Honestly, it's not.
I did.
The other. Mitchell popped it.
Yeah,
up.
So I looked at.
I wouldn't say anything.
Okay. I wouldn't talk anything about that.
We'll talk afterwards.
Listen, long story short, would we go through the process again? Absolutely.
And that is how twisted
that's
the worst part.
That is how twisted all this shit is. It's like, yeah, absolutely. If you say, oh, of course, if you give me that contract. Yeah, we'll do it again.
It's Stockholm Syndrome.
It is. It really is.
But that's part of the grind.
But I will say from all this, man, we've gotten back to the shit that we usually do. We've gotten more into stand-up. It's like the stuff that like we got into all of this for, we've gotten back to, and I feel a lot better about it. It's much more of the community end of it. Like, I think acting in general, like acting is like the worst thing to pursue out here because like your entire fate's in everybody's hands. At least with stand-up, you can control everything,
Shows.
You can book your own shows. You can write your own material. You put out your own content. Like, it's all you. So when you get the satisfaction, it's like no one else helped you. Friends maybe, but that's about it.
It was our Rocky Balboa going back to where his roots. I don't know the reference, Alex.
Yeah, we were trying to be something we were not, and
It's Rocky 3.
and we ended up getting to the realization that we shouldn't change.
Well, and again, it's not like everything they liked about us still isn't there. Like all the stuff they liked about us, and I think we can all agree ultimately what that particular show turned out to be or whatever was not the right fit for us.
It wasn't.
Yeah, I still think we would have been very fun on it.
Yeah.
But from what they initially told us was it'd be all three of us. It would be, it would be more fun, whatever.
And
we're not end up being what it was.
And we're still in consideration for future projects.
Of course.
That's not.
Well, that's what they all say.
Yeah, of course. But
It was,
well, I should believe it.
Yeah, I believe it too. Again,
maybe
the people
I'm
we talked
stupid.
to, yes, but the people we had talked to in this process were big people, which is great that we were even on the radar. But stepping back, it's all positive. But in that moment, oh my God, when I got that message,
I will say there's one thing we have done well in our in all of our rejections. We went to business school, business majors. We always reach back out with the professional email of thank you for your consideration.
Yep.
Best of luck, sincerely, Triplets. And
you eat the diaper that they just shit in for you.
Yep. And then Sean and I remember vividly. Sean and I went and got a dozen donuts, and I ate them with Sean.
Yep.
It's a good time. That's how I was. That's how I was celebrating that. But boy, that is a.
That's why I've been off the grid, but we're back.
Yeah, podcast wise, we had to get off the grid. I mean, they were going through and like nitpicking
Everything.
the tiniest stuff from podcasts. And it's like, dude, I'm just
Alex's
gonna
micro penis or
Yeah.
It was a mess, dude. And again, I don't think people realize that process that you have to like. I don't know. We know some people that have been on other stuff, but I don't know if it was that in depth. Granted, what we do is a little more. There's more social media. There's more stuff to be controversial.
Yeah, we're not just posting like photos and thirst traps. We're like actually creative.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people that were in that potential cast are like
that is something
just there for themselves.
Towards the end of it, I could tell in the calls like they did not want to mess with the funny end of stuff.
Well, that's why I was like initially my instinct was like, oh no, everything's gonna be different because like that field is like not us.
Yeah,
would I do it? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
but like that's not us. So I think that's why I was initially like, yeah, no, it's not going to be the same. It's going to be very different.
Long story short, if you guys want to reach out and do another show, we'll do it in a heartbeat. And we are willing to eat shit for 6 months.
Yes.
To get rejected, we'll do it. If you give us any type of offer that's decent, we'll take it.
And it's nothing against any of the companies or anything involved.
Just business.
It is business. We totally understand that.
Yeah.
And
I have no hard feelings.
There will be something that's a better fit for us. Like I'm not.
The only thing I was upset about is that they made this poor girl who had been on the project for a week
text you.
Send a text message rejection, and when the company really should have reached out and done it.
I feel bad for the woman who was at the donut shop afterwards, having to just pile in a bunch of donuts.
It was pathetic too. It was like a Monday.
It was a disgust.
It was like Monday, Valentine's Day, at like 1 o'clock when the donuts are all stale, and she's just like, "Oh, do you want that?" I'm like, "Yes, that one too." And she's just this poor little lady.
And donut holes.
And donut holes. She's like, anything else? I'm like, yeah, more. Oh.
The box was distended at the bottom.
Yeah. This poor lady.
You had what I had. You had the moment of the Monday, that eerie Monday. Well, what do they call it in the NFL? They call it like the Black Monday, where all the coaches get fired or something?
Yeah. Well, I remember, I texted her that Friday because I wanted to know a firm answer so I could eat during the Super Bowl if I got rejected. That was the main reason I wanted an answer that Friday, because I was like, we go to a big Super Bowl party every year, so I was like, if it's a no, I'm gonna eat everything at the Super Bowl party. But that also made me upset that she didn't respond to it, because I wanted to know if I can eat. And then of course it was just Monday morning, 8 o'clock. Here's your message. What time did she send that?
Yeah, it was in the morning. I remember because
8:23.
Yep, I think I just got done with the gym.
8:23. Good times. So yeah, if you want to make it in show business, that's kind of the process. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people that have a significantly easier process. There's people that just
and harder too. There's ones that have way harder than us. I mean, we're still relatively young. We're youngish.
we didn't. It's true we didn't have to go through the main initial casting. Like we got yesed in by a couple people really early on for that initial contract, which was nice. But that's just where it is. That's where we're at now. So that's kind of the backstory of the last 6 months where we were laying low, at least podcast wise and
everything wise,
comedy wise. But now we're back and we're doing shows. We got some shows coming up. We'll talk. We'll plug those at the end of the show. But yeah. So
in the meantime, it's Short King Spring, baby.
Yeah, it is Short King Spring.
Listen, Sean was the one that introduced the term.
Yeah,
to me at least.
Well, it was a very cold, lonely, disappointing winter. But once we've our hearts have de-thawed, it is now Short King Spring.
Oh yeah. You know what the worst part is? I thought I was like making little notes in my head of like, oh, I'm gonna slide in this girl's DM. If it makes it.
Oh, was that the worst part for you? Oh, what girls you're going to hook up with? Oh, you poor thing.
Yeah.
Oh, no. That's terrible.
Must have been rough.
Then I was also like, man, that time between shooting and when it actually airs is going to be a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Ooh, yeah, it'd be exhausting.
Oh, yeah. Not the, hey, like, you're the same as your other two brothers, but they picked you for some reason. Wow, that must not be disappointing at all.
Yeah.
That for some reason, nothing wrong with the two of us, but they just picked you.
Compiling a list of girls that you're trying to bang. That's a champagne problem, if you will.
Well, yeah, I mean, just top off was like Rihanna, Sydney Sweeney. I was going to swing for the fences with that blue check mark.
Would that have annoyed you if he had a blue check mark on his individual and you were just Mitchell?
Hey guys,
I told you I would have left.
I'm bringing Sydney Sweeney back to the 3-bedroom triplet apartment.
Oh no, we would have been paying your rent, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would have just converted my room into a studio, and then I would have obviously gotten a place in Bev Hills where I deserve to be.
Do you?
Well, I would have been if I was in that situation. I would have been in Bev Hills.
And this was the other concern is this is exactly what I would expect Alex to get if he had an opportunity of his own. This is exactly how I would expect him to be.
Boy, you talk about power corrupting somebody. Yes. My God.
I honestly would not have been like that.
I honestly wouldn't. I mean, I made a list. I wouldn't have, but
it's a joke. We all have a list of girls we want to see.
You were making jokes halfway through the process, and Mitchell and I wanted to stab you.
You should have.
We should have. You're right.
Because then you would have been the alternate.
Maybe.
Yeah. Speaking of Bev Hills, Short King Spring, obviously good times. I had a very interesting experience the other day at Beverly Hills.
Oh.
We live in Sherman Oaks, which is Beverly Hills adjacent, if you don't know that. And I went. I don't get drinks. If you know me, I don't drink. So if I go take a girl out, I usually opt for dessert or something like that.
I end up doing the drinking for Alex.
Yeah, Mitchell drinks enough for the both of us. So I go on a date a little bit ago, and she works in Beverly Hills, and she called me, which threw me off because I wasn't expecting that. She goes, "Hey, I'm free to dessert tonight after I get off work at 11:15. Can you meet me at this place across the street in Beverly Hills?" And I go, I'm very familiar with Beverly Hills. I was almost on a TV show, and I almost had a blue check mark. Sure, I'll go to Bev Hills.
Said every person in Hollywood.
Yeah, I'll go to Bev Hills in my Honda Civic. So I drive to Beverly Hills. Whatever. I go to this nice Italian restaurant called Lavo. Apparently it's new. Whatever. I don't care. So I go to this place called Lavo, and very nice, very expensive Italian place, bougie, all that stuff. I meet this girl, and we're just getting dessert. And
is she taller than you? Because that's
no. She's shorter than me.
Okay.
Cute girl. She looks like Addison Rae.
Addison Rae. Hi, y'all. It's me, Addison Rae.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll see if I see her again, but the waiter comes over and tells us like the specials, like, oh, a carrot cake, and I'm like, all right, cool. We already figured out what we want. We go gelato and some other stuff, and then I'm like, I want the 20-layer cake. Chocolate and peanut butter 20-layer cake. Yes. And he goes, "Oh, I've never tried that before." And I'm like, "Cool, man. Yeah, you can totally have some of ours." So the dessert comes out, and the cake is this big. It's a big 20-layer cake.
If you're looking on the camera, it's about 15 of Alex's dick.
So we get this cake. He sets the cake down on the table, immediately pulls out a fork and takes a scoop out of the cake and eats the fucking cake. He scooped out of the cake. I couldn't believe it. I looked at him, and he's like, "Oh my God, thanks, man. No one's ever let me try that before." I'm like, "No one still has never let you try that. This is in Beverly Hills."
He actually took your offer up.
He actually took my offer up, had a fork in his pocket, and scooped out of the fucking cake and ate it in front of me. I just looked at the girl, and we both were just like stunned. She's like, "All right, thanks, man. Let me know if I can get you guys anything else." And I'm like, we just was just like,
You want some gelato?
Yeah,
help yourself.
Can I get us anything else?
Yeah, can we get you anything? Do you want to try some of the like? Couldn't believe he did this. And mind you, this is like, I'm pretty sure celebrities and stuff were there, and this is a place you would never, ever, ever do that. Even if someone begged you to do it, you wouldn't go, "Yeah, no, of course." You would never do it, ever in Beverly Hills. But this guy fucking took a scoop with his fork out, and honestly, I don't care. In hindsight, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah,
but
no, it's funny that he didn't even wait until like
you know, we didn't even get a bite. He took the first bite out of the fucking cake.
Yeah,
and. I mean, the date was cool with it. We both laughed it off and thought it was funny, and we ate maybe half the cake anyways. It was a giant thing. But
well, no. Usually, if you work in food and beverage, you know, if there's food left over, maybe you take it to the back, and then maybe give
left
it a couple.
Over.
Yeah,
if they're like, we don't want it. Yeah, you just wounded soldier it and you eat it. But this guy straight up.
You're eating unfinished food.
No.
I'm saying
I haven't done it.
I'm saying you've never done that. You've never.
You didn't do it when you worked as a
waiter. If it's completely untouched, yes.
You've never had somebody come back. We all used to work at a golf course, by the way. You never had somebody come back from the golf. They barely touch their fries. You eat a couple fries,
or if they're hot enough.
There's a whole pan of fries in the back. Why would I eat somebody's that's been sitting out and they might have touched?
You don't want to waste them.
What do you mean? They cost like 5 cents.
How do you think I can't? Of all the people, you think you're holier than thou, and you would never.
I'm not saying I'm holier than thou. I'm saying for the fries, they're literally under the window.
Any other normal person would be like, "Oh, hey, I'll have a bite." No harm.
Maybe a fry.
If it's a neat plate, but not like
maybe of anything else. The French fries are the most abundant thing in the back.
Yeah, you take a nibble, you're good.
I ate, like, we would leave wedding cake out on tables, and if no one touched it, I would eat some of it afterwards. Yeah, but there's no point if you could tell if it's eaten or not.
There's wedding cake in the back that you just cut. You could just cut yourself a slice.
That's neither here nor there. This guy cut himself a slice of my cake.
I get that. I respect it.
So
that's a power move.
It's a power move.
This is what I'm saying. I don't know if I'll see the girl
on
again.
a first date.
On a first date. So I don't know if I'll see this girl again because she was very sweet. She was very nice, and she was a trooper. She had said she was tired from work, and she's like, "Hey, just a heads up, like, I'm only got an hour in me, and I'm like passed out." And I'm like, "That's cool." And we ended up talking for a while, but I don't know how. And I don't want to say she's got a much finer palate than I do for things.
She does.
She's a little. She's got a finer palate for things, but boy,
what didn't her dad do something?
I'm not gonna.
Don't be specific on here.
But definitely, we're simpleton. We like Cheesecake Factory is like the fanciest we get.
Apparently, I eat French fries off of other people's plates, and that's blasphemous.
We're disgusting.
You eat unfinished food. It's not like you're sharing a plate and be like, "Oh yeah, I'll take one." You're literally eating food that's been sitting out for 30 minutes.
I didn't do it.
That's some strangers eating.
I didn't do it all the time.
There's no point. There's so many. You are working in the kitchen.
I do
where
think
you can take anything.
You getting righteous about this is ridiculous. Yeah, because you're the most disgusting of all people.
I'm pretty sick when it comes to food, but I'm just saying.
But you wouldn't eat the other half of somebody's sandwich.
You'll eat butt, but you won't eat someone's sandwich.
You learn a couple words in Spanish, and they'll give you food.
Listen, again, I'm not trying to waste
the exchange.
Food. If there's food there and it looks good, and
you're not wasting it, they are.
How dare you shame him in Short King Spring? If he wants a fry, give him a fry.
This is past.
So, I don't know. It was a power play. I'd never seen anything like it. And mind you, this was an expensive dessert. She also got a drink that she drank a third of, which annoyed me. Well, she asked if she's like, "Is it okay if I get a drink?" And I said, "Sure."
Did you pay for it?
I pay for everything.
How much was a gelato, cake, and a drink?
We got technically 3 desserts and a drink. So we got the 20-layer cake.
Yeah.
He also brought us out the wrong dessert. Literally, the dessert was called Bombabani. It was some ridiculous Italian thing.
Okay.
So he brought the cake. helped himself to a scoop of it, and then also brought out another thing. And I'm like, I don't think this is the right thing. So when he came back around after his power play, I go, hey, is this the Bombadanobi? And he's like, no, it's a Zubadubadoo. He literally said something like that, and I thought he was fucking with me. And I'm like, I don't think that's the thing we pointed to. He's like, no, it's a Zubadubadoo. It was actually called some ridiculous thing like that.
It's the dessert that he also wanted to try that he hadn't tried yet. He brought
it was
it
some
out.
ridiculous thing. He's like, I'll switch it out for you, no problem. And he brought out the other dessert, which was like an Oreo frappuccino with like ricotta donut
with 3 straws in it.
Yeah.
How
So the
much
dessert,
was
everything
this?
in total was $65.
For a night in Bev Hills, that's really not bad.
That's not bad.
Plus tip.
That's not bad at all.
No, and that's the thing where it's like I thought the prices were
For the tip, did you just put the bite of the 20-layer cake and then
should
just
have wrote it on.
Literal piece of the pie.
yeah?
No, I gave him a decent tip. I gave him a good tip. Actually.
I respect the balls of going in and actually doing it.
But if it was anybody else in a restaurant like that, dude, that guy would be fired immediately.
yeah.
Well, that's he probably knew that. He probably read you. He's like this schlub right here. He's trying to make it look like he's fancier than he is, and he's not.
He's wearing a Ralph Lauren polo T-shirt.
I
So
might
it's really fancy.
I might have been wearing the same exact shirt.
I'm not. Of course you are. We saw your shitty Honda Civic with faded paint coming up into the parking lot.
I parked the Honda Civic down the street. No one saw the Honda Civic.
They're like, oh, this guy didn't even valet it. He's not paying.
I came early so I could park it and not have the girls see it. But yeah, it was definitely a move, a bold move. I'd never seen that before.
Well, dude,
I would expect it at like a TGI Fridays. I could see that shit happening.
Well, that's cool. That is the one. I don't like fancy restaurants. I'm not a fancy restaurant guy.
None of us are.
But the one thing I will say about fancy restaurants is you can kind of do whatever you want. I guess maybe on the waiter end, probably not. But like as a customer, you can be a gigantic asshole, and because you are paying so much money, you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah, again, it was.
So you could have been that person being like taking a bite. You could have literally got the dude fired. Which,
I could have.
But also like what you could have literally been like why is there a bite out of my cake? We didn't touch this.
Yeah.
And then got the whole thing paid for if you wanted to.
The guy had some balls to do that at a Beverly Hills restaurant.
But he read you.
We got it. It was in Beverly Hills.
He read you.
Well, no, it's Bev Hills.
He saw you, and he's like, okay, this guy.
Or he's just an idiot.
No. He saw you.
He's so stupid that he did that. But no, I'm not.
He saw you, and he was like, this guy probably works at a Target. And this is what he's been saving up money to do, is get dessert for this girl that you probably said you were 6 feet online. You got to this date. You know, obviously you're 5'4",
5'7".
and it's the pimp
You're
test.
trying to woo this girl, and this guy, he's probably seen so many people try to do these fancy dates, and he could just be like, oh, that guy's full of shit. This guy's actually and he knew. He's like, yeah.
But what if I pulled out our 1.5 million TikTok followers, dude? Do you think he would have treated me differently?
Do you think that matters?
I think he would have treated me
There's
differently.
not a blue check next to it.
That's true.
I don't think he would have.
So yeah, it was definitely an experience, and I don't know if the girl was very friendly and very sweet, but I could see how, and had her ex's story. Girls have some ridiculous. The shit girls put up with their exes is unbelievable. That's gonna have to be a different podcast because it's gonna end soon. But yeah. So I'm very curious to see if.
Are you gonna reach out again, or is she gonna?
I reached out.
Oh, you think? Okay.
I texted her the next day, and then I gave her a call today.
A call? Oh, okay.
Because she liked calling, and she responded to me, but it wasn't the greatest response. But again, we'll see. I was also her very first Hinge date ever. Well, her very first online date. So it's like, whatever. Anyways, that was my story of Bev Hills at dinner.
Yeah.
We're going to be closing this bad boy out. Thank you guys so much for being patient with us with the show. Thank you for Jeff for letting us work in the studio. The Big Zen Studios. Follow Jeff Zenizek.
Think of it as it was a hibernation. A hibernation. Now the short kings have shaken off all the dirt and the snow, and it is now short king spring, and we're going to be thriving.
Yeah, and instead of like the bears, they cork up their butts. The company just
did it for us.
Corked up our butts.
Yeah.
What do you mean corking up a butt?
A bear will cork up their ass
during hibernation.
Hibernation.
Bears will naturally get a cork in their ass to prevent them from
shitting.
Put one in their ass?
No, their body creates
naturally
a seal.
Creates a seal. Sean knows what I'm talking about. You can look it up.
Sorry, I don't know about bear butt plugs.
But you eat fucking people's unfinished food.
You disgust
I really
me.
don't think Jeff doesn't think there's anything wrong with that. And he's from Florida too, so he knows.
He is a Florida guy. We'll be in Tulare, California, May 13th at Barmageddon.
Let's go, baby!
Come check us out there.
We should have an Ontario show in the summer, I believe.
I don't know the Ontario show, but we are going to be releasing more shows. Check our Instagram. If you haven't, please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. This is on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Or if you haven't, subscribe to the YouTube channel. All of it at Virzi Triplets. Individually at Alex Virzi.
At Mitchell Virzi.
At Sean Virzi.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for being patient with us. We appreciate the love, support we've gotten through all this. We back. Later. Dope.